So I'm Sherry. So nice to be here with you today. And so just to get us started, why don't we go ahead and put our names in the chat, our name, our organization, and the answer to this question, and thinking back over the past year, what is one thing you are grateful for? What, if we could hear from you guys, what are you grateful for the past year?
My grateful for also comes along with an introduction I would like to make. Could I do that?
Absolutely.
Yeah. We have a new person join us today, and that is what I'm very grateful for this year is I was able to hire a new American child care navigator. Her name is Sadio Osman. Wave, Sadio.
Excellent.
She started in June, so she's been learning the ropes with me, and I'm very happy to have her and to have her join today as well.
Mm-hmm.
Welcome.
Yeah, welcome. What else are we grateful for?
I see in the chat, I'm grateful for mild weather. Ariel's grateful for children have stayed healthy over the past year. Sue is grateful for opportunities to learn new ways of connecting. We are always trying new coaching methods.
Mm-hmm.
We have Gil being on the board for Voices for Racial Justice. Allison, do you want to say yours out loud?
Yes, because this applies to everybody here too, but I'm just, I've been doing more community work than before the pandemic, like somehow there's a little bit more time, but I'm just thankful for everybody that's really been fighting for justice and fighting for a better world and a better, community, better neighborhood, all of those things. So thank you to all of you.
Great. What about Jennifer? Who?
I said mild weather.
You
Oh,
said
my
what?
brother.
Okay.
I'm thankful for just kind of it's sort of abstract, but I'm thankful for the tenacity of life.
Mm,
It just always keeps moving forward and continues to expand itself. So I'm grateful for that.
great. Thanks, everybody, and welcome. I'm glad to be here with you. So I'm going to say I'm grateful for that. And let's go ahead and have Jennifer tell us how we're going to spend our time today.
Great. So the last time this group met, we said we would like to do some planning today, planning for next year, how we might gather ourselves or some topics that we might want to explore together, but in a way to get us in the mood for future thinking. We thought we would spend a little bit of time doing some reflection on the year. So we'll do that. So in our reflection time, we'll do that as a big group. In our thinking about topics for next year, we'll have the opportunities to talk in small groups and then come back as a large group. So that will be our flow. And so I have a quote for us to get into the right, maybe mind space. This is from Philip Guy Rockford. The past is hindsight and the future is mind sight, vision and possibility. So I was inspired by the term mind sight. So I think I might use that in my vernacular moving forward. So thank you. So I'll pass it to Sherry to lead us through some hindsight reflection.
Great, thanks. Jennifer, I did like that quote. I'm gonna have to post that. So just a reflection. We've spent this year together, you guys. It's the end of the year, believe it or not. In January, we all met together as a healthy start to convening, and then that's when we introduced the idea of affinity groups. There was the coaching and training, the holistic organization, the policy group, and then people got an opportunity to decide, where they wanted to spend some time. Some people joined more than one group during this last year. And then for coaching and training, we had our first meeting as an affinity group in May. It was a meet and greet, sharing information about each other and meeting each other. We had a session 2 in August where Betty and Marita came and talked about the Facet tool. And in the meantime, one of the things that you guys also suggested in our second session was a grantee partner directory. And we listened to that, and you've seen that a survey has gone out. We've collected some information from everyone, and it was a great idea that we were able to follow up on. So we're still working on that, and we'll have some information back to everyone. So when we think about the sessions that we've had already from our May session, our meet and greet, what's one thing that you remember from that session if you had a chance to be there? I know there's some new folks here today. You'd also be telling them, it's like, what did we do during that first session? What do you remember? And you can just speak that, into the room here today. I know it was a while ago.
Say you are really taxing us to stretch our brain way back. Oh gosh. I'm drawing blanks.
Mm-hmm. Well, this is where we came together and we heard from a lot of people. We heard a lot of other folks telling what they did as an organization. We did some small group work. This is where we introduced sort of this model that we've been working on. Does that ring a bell?
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember specifics, but I remember the general excitement of being able to connect with others who are doing similar work. And that is only, grown, but I do remember that from the very first meeting.
And so in that first meeting, we asked you, well, what is it that you want to be doing next? Ideas. It's important that these are meaningful sessions for you. And you're going to see us doing that today again. It's like, okay, so what would you like to do next year? So the second session, Betty came. What do you remember about that? Your experience, what you heard, what you saw, how it felt?
This has been an unusually extremely beyond even ability to discuss how crazy busy it's been and how much stuff has been going on in our area. Not just at work, but just being short-staffed. And so I remember the general, there are people that have used this tool in our coaching. Some programs have used it, but not a lot. And I just remember going through the tool and loving it. And then of course, with being down a few staff and taking over their duties, I haven't had time to go back and look through all that. And so it's feeling like I really need to go back and look at my notes and really renew some of what we talked about. And it seems like I look at the date and I'm like, that wasn't that long ago, but it feels like so much has happened since then. It's like I'm a little older than most of you on here, and so it's a little harder for me to keep it all up here anymore because there's so much happening. And in early childhood in general, there's so much going on right now. It is so there's so many different streams coming down, but I just remember thinking that I would love to use that tool more with our programs and finding a way to use it that wasn't, I think for some of our programs in coaching, at least in parent aware, that it was a cost prohibitive thing to use that tool over, like we use a Georgetown University tool. And I think that was where some of the issues had been. And so I just remember really liking the tool and thinking it would be nice to find a way that more programs would use it. And I think that might be something that's being worked on more at a state level. I'm not sure.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'll say that that's definitely true. Betty's been working, we've been having some meetings with folks at Childcare Aware and other folks in the state to think about how do we really embed this in, how we think about quality childcare and what kinds of things we're offering to folks. I know Betty's really trying to figure out how to make it accessible to everyone.
Well, and I would just add, coming from the coaching lens and working with programs that, when we're talking about them documenting their quality and the procedures that they go through, or we want things to be meaningful and useful and not just check boxes that people are checking out pieces of paper so they can get a rating. I mean, that would just kind of defeat the whole purpose. And so I think just having the availability of multiple tools so that we really are not just checking off a cultural checklist and writing a goal and never like really embedding into programs. And so I think there's still a lot of work to be done in that area in the state. So.
And that's what I remember about Betty's tool. It's more of a process, because it's about family engagement. We have the center staff take one tool, parents or family members take another, and then it's a process upon which how can we raise awareness about each other's needs and maybe meet more in the middle. So I was inspired by the process element that she talked about.
Great, thank you. We sent out the grantee partner directory. If you completed it, thank you so much. If you didn't have a chance to complete it, there's still time. We'll put a link into the chat so that you can follow that and complete that for us. And like I said earlier, we'll be bringing something back to everyone. One of the things that we did in that survey is we looked at the Healthy Start strategy menu, and we put some of those pieces into the survey and asking people where they felt they were spending their time and where their focus is. And we're going to be doing a deeper dive there in that space. Lots of topics, lots of ideas about how we can even spend time next year in 2022. So if you don't remember what those things were, we have a plan for that. So Tehoot's going to walk us through, Tehoot and Jennifer are going to walk us through and remind us what those things are.
Before we move on, Sherry, I just want to point out there's two more comments in the chat where back when we were still on Betty. Ariel says, I remember enjoying time in small groups processing the tool with others. And then Bonita says, I agree with Sue. It's been a busy time. However, the tool and I would like to know how she wants to bring the tool back to use with families.
Great,
Thank you. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
So let's transition our thinking to 2022, and there's a very robust menu of topics that we can use to do our planning. So when we met last time, like we have mentioned, that there was a desire to do some planning, some kind of sketching of what these conversations would look like next year. So to help us with that, we're going to just remind you of one way that we've been thinking about the work in early childhood, which is broad and deep and vast. For those of you that were around a year or 18 months ago, we came out with this, the foundation came out with this Healthy Start strategy menu, and it's really organizes the work at 3 levels. So there's some of you that are working directly with providers on training efforts, some of you that are working more at community level strategies, and others that are working on policy issues. So we want to just take a few minutes to kind of unpack each of these levels with you and remind you of the kinds of topics that are in each of these containers to see if that kind of inspires any excitement or energy around where you want to lead these conversations next year. So at the very top is kind of societal level strategies or policy level strategies. There's a number of partners in this portfolio that are working specifically at this level. But these are some of the things that would be in that kind of bucket of work. We've talked about Facet already, but there is another way to use that data, which is in their database, they have data from different Facet projects across the state. So the opportunity there would be to use that data to see if we can learn anything about policy implications based on how people have responded to that specific tool. So that's one thing in this bucket. There's also licensing process issues that a number of you have been engaged in, simplifying the process, making it accessible to different community members, different language groups. A number of you have worked in that area. Providing better incentives and supports to existing providers or new providers. So is there a way at the state level to provide more incentives? Of course, since we put this together 18 months ago, like Sue said, there is a lot of money coming into the early childhood system. And we know of partners that are raising salaries or raising hourly rates for providers. So that was a time when that was not even possible. That was not even on the horizon, but now we are in an environment that is able to raise some of these incentives and supports because the money is here. So that's a bucket of work in here. Also supporting any kind of cross-system collaborations or community partnerships, coalitions, collective impact. That would be something that would sit at this level of work. And then finally, we know that there isn't much in the state realm for FFN providers, both in pathways for accessing resources or even any thought about what quality looks like for FFM providers, what they care about, what they think is quality. There's nothing like that. So there's, again, here, at the time we wrote this, there was no movement in the FFM world. That, of course, has now changed. A number of you have been a part of those efforts. So there's more money and more activity happening at that level as well. So this is kind of the state. Like if you are more interested at that bigger picture level, these are the kinds of things that we could work on or explore next year. So are there any questions on any of these activities or strategies? Are they pretty clear? Yeah, okay. So Jennifer will take us through the next two.
So in the strategy menu, we have this middle layer that's called community level strategies. Again, these are just potential topics that we could explore together. But of course, whatever ideas you come up with will be great. But at this community level, we have ones where we know that you're trying to pay attention and be supportive of culturally and geographically specific types of strategies and organizations, and making sure they have what they need to be successful from a business side and a professional side. Overall business development, coaching and training, there could be a number of topics on that front that we could explore. Also on the retention and recruitment and coaching side, it could be any kind of organizations. We also are noticing more energy around FFN providers and recognizing what they might need, especially as we're thinking about quality and how that might be similar or different, but also supporting the quality journey for our licensed partners. So where do you have questions about any one of these where it might not be clear? Okay, seems straightforward then. And then at the individual level, as we think of this as being supporting people within our early childhood system. So sometimes our people need support on data and assessment. We could be exploring strategies and tools and tips with that. Again, thinking about our licensed and FFN providers, perhaps how do we do training? How do we do financial and material supports? We could be talking more about that together. And then for the folks who do more of an evidence-based, and then others who do culturally informed curricula, we could be talking more about them in those settings, especially as it relates to quality. So that's kind of what's in the strategy menu. Where do you have questions or clarifications? Okay, well, we'll have an opportunity to do any refinement or additions related to these topics and beyond in our small group work. So Sherry will tell us what we're going to do in our very small groups today.
Yeah, it's our very small but very rich groups. And so we're going to have a small group conversation. In the past, for the sessions we've had, we've asked you to go away and be a facilitator and a recorder. But today, Jennifer, Tehoot, and I are going to join you and be in the conversation with you and facilitate and take notes. And we'll just have a person who's going to report back out. So the next things that we are going to do is a small group. Then we're going to do a report out. Then we have some announcements, and we're going to close our session for today. We're going to do a deep dive into what kinds of things you're interested in from the strategy menu, or maybe there's additional things that you can identify that aren't even listed. As Tehoot was mentioning, things have changed a lot since those initial thoughts, and there you might have another direction that you think is important to go in. And so we're going to break into the small groups, and then I'm going to ask Tehoot, can you share the Google slide with me? I wasn't able to locate that. That would be helpful.
Yep, I will.
Great. So we'll
Sherry,
see.
how long are the small groups?
30
Yeah, we thought 30 minutes. Does that still sound like a good amount of time? Yep, 30 minutes. Yep, if you get done early, just have a break. We'll call everybody back.
All right, I'm going to open the rooms. We are all back. Bye, Ariel.
Oh, yes.
Deleted.
Great. Fabiola's in Mexico. We were talking about.
Oh,
So she had a nice background and warm weather.
can we
So
come over, Fabi?
no, she
Please.
left without us.
She what? She left without us?
Yes.
Yeah, we're having snow flurries out here, so, and wind.
Great.
Oh,
Welcome back. So now we're going to report back.
I need just 1 second, if you don't mind, before we switch over to that. So if you don't mind.
That's great.
While we're waiting, Fabi, give us a tour of Mexico.
Fabi, we want to come visit you.
We'll live through you.
Yes, living vicariously through Fabiola.
I think she's frozen.
Oh, no.
She is, yeah, she was having some
Oh, there she is.
difficulty, but she's resourceful. So we were chatting. Yeah, I'm having, it's always an adjustment period to the cold, right? I always think I should be done by now. I should transition with ease.
Mm.
Yeah.
There's always something. So
It's always a shock, I think. I'm always like, oh, we're doing this now?
yeah, it just takes a little
Oh.
bit.
When it's cool or cold.
Yeah, when it starts to get cold, then I think I'll never, and that's when it's 40, and I can't go any lower than this, but I adjust eventually. Yeah.
I'm fine with the cold. It's the dark that's really hard for me.
Mhm.
Like,
The dark is really hard.
leaky.
Yes, I
agree.
understand that.
I would be a person that would be good for 4 seasons in one day. Like, I would love a glass of every single day because it's so refreshing. But
Mhm.
after so many days, sometimes that's tiring. But oh, if I could get up every morning and just have that 30 below just whip me in the face to wake me up.
kinda like that
Then I could go with the rest of the day being whatever.
That's funny. In one day.
Dude, nobody has ever said that in the morning, but they want to be. I've never heard that. I want to wake up and have it be 30 below and hit me in the face.
At least 30
Minnesota,
above, maybe 30 above. I wouldn't mind 30 above every day with a nice glass of that. And then it can get to 70 if it wants to, but 90, no, thank you.
It's very warm in our office, and so all the staff here can tell you that on the very, very cold days that I go walk outside for about 30 seconds to a minute and just let it like 30 below, and I'm like,
Oh.
and then I gotta go back in because I have to deal with everybody else who have a heat in the winter, and I don't. I have a fan going all winter long. It's too much.
You would be the person, Sue, that would be like in the sauna and then jump into the frozen lake.
Mhm.
Oh, I would.
That's what I was thinking, those people that jump in that frozen lake certain time of year. Yeah.
I don't know if I could go into that quite. Maybe.
The polar bear
Yeah.
plunge.
I want 30 seconds and not in water. I want it just to be air.
Yeah.
That
There's a
probably
difference.
that would be my speed too, not the water. Yeah.
I hear you. Okay.
Great, thank you. Thanks, Jennifer. So we want to do a report back from each group, and we should have a spokesperson from each of the groups, and we want to look a little bit at what we collected. You know, we had a lot to choose from, and we sort of filtered it down to what each group thought might be the most exciting or the best topic for us to explore next year. So who's the spokesperson for group 1?
I'm going to ask Sue to be the spokesperson for group 1 since we lost our other person.
Okay.
And we have 2 topics. And so I don't know if who's going to share the Google slide.
Yeah.
That'd be me.
Okay.
Thanks, Tehu.
So we have 2 topics that came up. One's called coaching on cultural humility, and one is kind of what was already on the strategy menu, but elaborated on supporting cross-system community partnerships and collaboration. So Sue, would you mind just filling the group in on the 2 ideas and kind of the slant that it takes?
So I think we were on same mindset in the group. So on the coaching on cultural humility, one of the things that we were talking about was Ariel brought it up, and I had written it down right before we went into group. Are there really any current evidence-based curriculums that are highly focused on cultural relevance? And we just talked a lot about how do we even coach around that? How do we support providers in getting away from the tourist approach? Because even during regional grant spending, there's been a focus on, 10% has to be on culturally relevant materials or training. And so you get this, we're going to get this and this and this because we celebrate, Chinese New Year and we do this and we do that. And it's great to explore, but how do we embed every day? And so we even talked about, we have quality coaches and we have class coaches across the state. Could we actually have cultural coaches that did coaching around really understanding what culture is, how to really welcome families, how to not have it be a tourist approach, not just have classic, Mexican food in here, and I've got Chinese food this week, and just getting away from some of that. So really thinking about how do we get that, so whether providers are serving families of color or different cultures, even if they're not, the children that they are serving are going to be in that world. And how do we really take notice of that and make it a point that we're preparing children for a world outside of that space, whether or not they're experiencing, different cultures and values, or what types of different cultures and values. How do we prepare them without doing a tourist approach? Because that's still, I thought that had kind of gone away, but it really, being out in programs, it really hasn't. So really thinking about that, like more information on how to support and coach programs to understand that better. And not just that, we're going through culturally conscious training right now as a statewide group, but not just focusing on those of us that are already out there, but all of our people that we cross paths with. And then the other area was just really, we're excited about the number of partnerships across the state and really continuing on that, and that those partnerships are not just in the typical, yes, we have Myth Foundations and we have, First Children's Finance, we have all these different, but what outside of those areas, who have we been bringing in, and how do we also educate in the community the importance of childcare, the importance of the work we're doing so that these people that are coming in, whether it's our manufacturers that come in and sit on some of our community groups or healthcare, like how do we all work together to understand that supporting each other and helping in this field is not just about supporting businesses. Because what we're hearing a little bit about when we go into the business field right now is, but they're a business, we're also a business, why do we have to support them? So it has to get beyond the supporting the business and really supporting the children. So really, how do we navigate those partnerships and keep building them, and what are new avenues to try, I think. Does that seem like what we kind of talked about, Jennifer?
Yes, perfect. That was really good. Thank you.
Thanks, Sue. In group 2, who's your spokesperson, your reporter?
I forgot to assign someone. So who, Dina, do you wanna, or Bonita, either of you want to do it, or do you want me to do it? Oh, you're muted.
Go ahead, Tehu. You got it.
And I knew you were gonna say that, Bonita.
Yeah, I
How about you,
know.
Dina? Do you wanna?
I would vote for Tehu. Is the paper gonna be up there that we
It's-
talked
do you s-
about? I don't
do
know
you
if I'll
s-
remember it all.
Oh, okay. It's up on the screen. Do you see it?
It's the brown and the green, right?
This here. It's a little, mine is not
One
as,
is- Oh,
as-
the middle?
yes, yes.
Oh, okay. I can try, but will you chime in? I don't know if
Absolutely.
I'll-
Just speak from like what you remember, what you were excited about. That works too.
Okay. So we talked about some more specifics on some of the work, like helping new Americans set up businesses, and the differences between, there are many of these things that we refer out to, like First Children's Finance or others that have that expertise, but yet, they focus on certain areas, and there's still a need for that, helping to guide that application of those things when you're becoming licensing, and just the whole mindset of, this is your business, it's in your home, but this is your business, and setting up to be able to support your business. So we talked about that some, and how there's kind of a couple of different levels that have to be looked at. At first we thought, well, maybe that's not really us, we don't really focus on the business. And then I'm like, well, actually, yeah, I have to, because I'm helping them set up their environment and their filing and do they need a laptop? Do they need a computer? So many things are, computer driven these days, that sort of thing, just on the environment level. Am I in the right spot here?
Yeah. Yep.
Is this
Great.
right? Okay.
Yep.
And then, yeah, we talked a little bit along those lines, business development, also working with, very culturally specific communities. We use some terms, one size doesn't fit all. We talked specifically about, I might be jumping around, but about, Bonita, most of her experience is with centers. My current experience is with FFN, and how even just the very definition and understanding what that means, not only to us, but what is their understanding of themselves, and how can we assess based on that, and meet those needs. And I see a lot of that, especially in the FFN world, where I'm living right now, that they don't necessarily even recognize themselves as FFN. And sometimes you just have to start with, do you care for children in your home? Might be yours, it might be others. How can we increase quality, period, and grow from there? Yeah, and I talked about, you caught it. I didn't know if I threw it in the last 15 seconds. Bonita was beautifully sharing about some of her, thoughts and experiences with childcare centers. And I only kind of consult. I don't have enough expertise to really provide the same level of support with centers, but what I threw out there is that I really think there's a need for that. I would love to see in some of our capacity building, hint, hint.
It's for you, Gil.
Yeah.
I'm sure he's ready. He's
Focus,
ready.
focus being on having someone to help navigate the very complex process of starting a child care center, starting with just understanding, education and understanding how complex it is, but then there's really a need to provide some boots on the ground supports for that. And that's kind of, at least in our area, that's a missing link right now. I see some head nods from others, so maybe it's others as well. Let's see. We talked about, just the importance of building relationship, not only with families, caregivers, but with the partners in the community that already have those relationships, that are already supporting and being able to build on that trust that they've already developed and learn what they already know, and eventually we'll grow in, hopefully, knowing that ourselves and building our own relationships. But we talked about that a little bit. Yeah, and recognition and exploration that FFN care, like I said, there's a lot of defining what that is, and they don't necessarily see themselves as family, friend, and neighbor care. Their grandma, their uncle, but there's still a need for to see how we can support and how do they feel they need supported. Bonita, I don't know if I'm going to do this justice, but we spent some time talking about centers and just the importance of assessment. And she was particularly experienced with a certain kind of assessment and just how that can apply to different staffing, like teachers and administrators, and increasing just the understanding of how these assessments are used and how it can inform different levels of learning. And Bonita, feel free to chime in on that, and just different training strategies and definitions. What were we talking about here? I think, again, we were talking about the differences in the roles in different early childhood spaces, that one size doesn't all. Is that correct?
Yes, you're doing very well. Yay!
Okay, I'm done.
That's a team. Thank you, Dina.
Well, I help. The notes really help, but.
Good job. Thank you. Who was your facilitator in your room? I'm just kidding. I would say like a lot of our conversation was really robust, and the theme I'm seeing with group one is that a lot of, like, we know what the competencies are, we know assessment matters, we know the thing, but really what I was hearing from Bonita and Dina is we need the tools and tactics for doing that translation work that's the space they inhabit, is trying to take what is so complex and then translate it in a variety of ways. Like when we're in North working at childcare centers, Bonita's like trying to break down this very technical language for folks. So what I heard from both of them was like resources, support, help with what we do all day, every day, which is that translation of complexity into like by language, by culture, by different mindsets. Is anything in that realm would be helpful.
Great.
What we got.
Thank you. And so I facilitated group 3, and Sadio can report back on the work that she and Fabiola did. You're muted.
You're like, I'm not doing it. No.
You can do it, Sadio.
Do you want to do it?
Yeah, you can just go ahead and just read what you can just read what we said that the two of you thought was important. Do you want me to speak? Okay, yeah, great. I can do that for you. So we, walked through and came up with 4 different things that rose to the top. But the first thing was providing incentives and supports to existing and new providers, providing business development, coaching and training and financing to childcare provider organizations, providing training, financial and material supports to FFNs and licensed providers in cultural and or rural communities, and including indicators of quality related to unlicensed and friends, family, and neighbor FFN providers. Those are the things that came to the top. I think in addition to that, when we thought about, the kinds of things that were missing was just the basic message of more FFN support being a big theme. And then the other one was more providers that have different language skills to speak to the providers who don't have English as their primary or their first language. That was another area that I actually heard echoed in some of the first group 1, group 2, more attention to culture and the needs of the new American community. Sadio, do you want to add anything else? Or Fabiola? Great. Thank you guys.
I think you just said it.
Okay.
Everything.
Great. So thank you for doing this. This is really helpful to help craft what we're going to be doing next year. And I'm going to hand this over to Tehut to talk about next steps.
Thank you. So just echoing Sherry's gratitude, thank you for that. I think it's so interesting that there is sort of these themes that are coming up around really up-leveling becoming more sophisticated in our understanding of culture and our ability to like modify and make accessible this really complex information to a variety of audiences that really comes through, and it makes sense given the work that you all do so beautifully every day. So we are going to kind of move to wrap up here. Let me just get the
I think I could get in there just for a second to ask. I'm wondering if, since we were able to hear from all the groups, there were some themes that have definitely come up, but I'm wondering if people were either inspired by any new ideas or if there was anything that we want to add to our list, I guess, as we think about topics for next year that might have been like overlooked.
I know for our group, one thing that I found myself adding is something more focused on relationship building, because that's a lot of the work that needs to, the precursor, or actually it's the foundation for everything that folks are doing. So that wasn't explicitly called out in like at that individual level work.
I know our group had a little bit of a robust conversation about the workforce, recognizing, and we were talking about workforce development and how the jobs still are low paying, and so as the field talks to businesses and others to try to increase the value, that also the income needs to be also valued, because even if you can talk people into the work, they still might be making, not getting enough for health insurance or some other things. So not only does the field need to make a case for why early child care workers are important, but then we also as a field need to increase the income, if you will. So I hadn't really heard that come through. I heard a lot, like I said, on the culture and the sustainability and stuff like that, but
Mhm.
I don't know if that's ways we can help the field progress from a workforce development perspective.
Mhm.
I don't know if others have an interest in that or if it was just our group.
And I think a lot of that came about, as you know, even as we work with partners around business supports for childcare. Often they'll say, like, we'll reach out to business partners and they'll say, why should I be supporting them? I have to make my own business work. I have to do it without asking for other people to help me out. And then you'll hear, you know, parents say, I don't know how providers can say they make very little money because I pay X, 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 and they just don't have that understanding of not only the value of what they're getting in return for their dollars, but truly for many of them, it's a big chunk of their income, but it's not their whole income. You know, so it's the understanding, trying to understand that people aren't just a warm body. You know, I think getting that, educating the community to understand that childcare is more than just being a warm body standing there watching children. But there's much more involved in that, and that it should be a worthy paying field. And if you want the right people in it, you have to pay them well, because otherwise you're going to get people that, well, it's really convenient to work at the childcare down the street. Not that I really love working with kids, but it's convenient, right? Things like that. And I'm just speaking from, I've seen it. So it's not, I'm not even making that up. It's just like, because sometimes I'll wonder, over the years, I've wondered, like, why are you even in childcare? Well, it's because I don't have to drive anywhere else, you know, things like that. And so I think just getting that, it's a long haul, but we have to still keep educating on that worthy wage campaign that we've been fighting for 3 decades. And then just having the community understand, like when we've done partnerships with First Children's Finance, that's where now more and more of the businesses are starting to understand what childcare really means to them and how important the work is. And then I would add on that FFN piece, when we're talking about quality regulations, that we have to also value, not just that we're trying to fill FFN in, but we have to value them for their very unique role, because they are very responsible for keeping a lot of children healthy and maybe in a culturally relevant setting when nobody else could do that work. And so I think we have to put more value on that as well.
So I'm just curious if others, you know, since we are trying to pick topics to kind of go deeper on next year, would that be even anything to consider, or was it just kind of a one-off? That's something our group was into?
Sorry, I was resonating with what you said, and also Sue's points. I have interest there.
Okay, we'll add it to the list. Potentials. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, we have a few more minutes here, so let's move to closing our time together. Thank you for the work that you did today. So our next and final convening will be December 15th. We're really excited to have Marie Michael here. We heard from you the desire to have something around self-care. So this is a treat for all of us that will be in this convening on the 15th. She's going to come and teach us some skills, give us different ways of thinking about our work and the environment that we find ourselves in, and help us to care for ourselves in a deeper way. So we're excited that she's going to be here on the 15th, 1 to 3. Hopefully you have that calendar. You have that calendar invite already on your calendars. Let us know if that's not the case. And we would love for you to, another shout out for that directory survey. I think Jennifer put the link in the chat. If you wouldn't mind filling that out for us. We're trying to build a complete directory of all the friends in this project, so you can start connecting with one another easily. So please do fill that out if you have not done so already. And then we will take everything that you've said, make some sense of it, find themes, find kind of language that will hold the ideas you expressed today and put it into a survey that we will send out to everybody in this project. So this is a very small subset of all the friends in here. So we'll send that out to the whole group to see which of these topics resonate for them. So we can really have some signal from everybody on where we turn our attention in 2022. And I think we're actually scheduled till 4. So we're gonna, I think it lets you out kind of early, which is a nice treat. I think, yeah, which is a nice treat. Any other kind of housekeeping things from the team that maybe I forgot before we go to our closing quotes?
You know, I was thinking too that when you think about we just went through these topics. We've been exploring this idea that you guys are also experts in the field. So you might have some expertise on one of these topics and be the best person to share that with others. Or second to that, you might know somebody in the community that you've listened to recently or that you know about who might be a great expert. So both of those, I think would be good to maybe put into the survey and hear back. So just think about that you as an expert in your field, sharing with your peers, or somebody else that you know that would be able to offer their expertise. I just wanted to add that.
Yeah, that's good. We will be asking you if you want to present at one of these things, if you have gifts and talents that you can share with the group. So absolutely a good early shout out about that. We will ask you. All right. So I think we're gonna jump off in a second. Our closing quote that we found inspiring comes from a computer scientist, Philip McGuile. I don't know if I pronounced his last name correctly. I was practicing, but I think it's escaped me. So he lives kind of in the world of technology and computer science. And he said, "My focus is not on solving nature's deeper mysteries. It is on using nature's deeper mysteries to solve important societal problems." So I think there's just, for me, what that means is there's a lot of kind of wisdom all around us all the time. And it could be a lot of you practice this already in the ways that you solve like a training issue. I've seen some of you train and come up with a metaphor, an analogy that would make sense to a child or would make sense to a teacher. So it's really kind of harnessing the wisdom that you swim in every day, all day, to find ways to kind of really start unwinding some of these really intractable problems that we're all facing. So that's what his quote made me think about, is like, we already have the answer. It's swimming, I'm swimming in it. Maybe I need to take a nap. Maybe I need to go for a run so that can come forward. But all of the answers are already within the group. We don't have to go any further. So with that, thank you for being here today, and thank you for the work, and thank you for this year. This has not been another easy year. So we wish you all the very best holiday season coming up, and we are so thankful for each of you. So thank you for being here. And you get time back. How fun is that?
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.